Good morning, everyone. How you doing? Good? Yeah. It's a little early for me, but I want to first start out with just a little story that's is sort of a microcosm of this whole world that's evolved out of my dancing on crutches. Now, um, I have a four-legged style, and some of you are like, well, why do you need crutches? It's obvious that you're using your legs, and so I want to explain a little bit about the medical. I call it validation because until I validate, you're sitting there with a question in your head, so you're not really listening to anything else. So you don't even care unless I tell you why I'm using crutches until. So I just want to start out with medical validation, which is one of the phenomena that have evolved out of this work, and I'm going to cover many phenomena through some video. But basically, I have a bilateral hip deformity, which means that my hips aren't round. So if I put pressure on them continuously, they swell up and it hurts really bad. Now, you can have hip replacements, but they don't last very long. So that's the medical model versus the social model of disability, where you can either solve things socially, which is what I've done through a four-legged style of moving on a skateboard with modified rocker bottom crutches, or you can go have an operation and then go back 10 years later and have another one, or even you can even get worse than that. But let's just say best case scenario, 15, 20 years. So I have developed a four-legged style of movement. Now, like I said before, I can walk, right? So the idea is if you're walking across the desert with a little cup of water, you don't drink it all at the top. So throughout the day, I'm going sipping how much I can use in my joint. So I'm a dancer. And I'm dancing, let's say I go to a club, right? Right? Okay. Just, street dance, house, club, And then there's somebody who might come who's never seen me. I'm in New York. People know who I am in New York, especially in the club scene. Oh, there's Bill. Go ahead, do your thing. But somebody will show up and be like, I think he might be faking me. I don't think he really needs those crutches. Because most people think, well, if you need crutches, you can't walk. And if you can walk, then you don't need crutches, and there's no in between, right? It's like if you were to see somebody with glasses and go, take those glasses off. I know you're not blind, So the whole black and white issue of yes, you can or you can't, and there's no in between. So I stand in this very ambiguous place where I have a representation disability, but I'm also able to sort of assimilate able-bodiedness if I need to. I can just drop these and stand here like, hey. So I'm at the club doing my thing, and then I see, out of the corner of my eye, somebody, I think he might be faking. I need those crutches, right? So I came up with this thing called faker squared. Now, faker squared is faking to the second power, okay? Which basically means that I'm faking to show my reality, okay? So let me I know that probably doesn't make sense to a lot of you, so I'm going to actually demonstrate what faker squared means. So, I'm dancing, ba, 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 and then, I think he's faking. And then I see that. So later, let's say in the lounge or whatever, I see those same characters, they're chilling, whatever, and they're like, oh, there's that dude who's faking. And I'll do this. I'll be like this. I'll be walking. I'll know they're looking. I'll go. And, I knew he was faking, man. Busted. And so that's a really good example. A really good example of a sociological phenomena that exists in public space. So a lot of the work that I do, people think, oh, Bill, he dances on the crutches. Isn't it amazing? All the eye candy. Bow, wow, like flash, eye candy, boom, boom. Oh, trick moves, cool. Well, there's this underlying body of work. So when you see and you read in the paper, oh, Bill Shannon, the crutch master, is going to do some tricks, Well, yeah, okay, that's like the surface level of the work. But when you take it in public space, there's this underlying sociological interaction that happened cumulatively year after year. So you don't first immediately start with faker squared. You just go, these people are accusing me of faking, and I hate them. Because I'm not, But then you develop tools. So those are my tools. So basically, I'm no longer subject. I am host. So I host their projection of, oh, you're faking, and I make it my own and turn it around. So before I move into the to the clips, there's one more thing I wanted to cover, which is the technique for dancing on crutches. In other words, you think, oh, he dances on crutches, and there's no way to see in. Because it's an invented form, you don't know what you're looking at, right? So if I tell you right now I'm doing a high bar thread to saddle high mid split, well, you have no idea what the hell that means, right? So let's just cover the basics of this technique, which I called Shannon technique because, well, you know, when you invent something, sometimes you want to name it after yourself and whatever. So anyway, so right now I'm in the saddle, okay? This is the saddle, this is the high bar, this is the low bar, this is the handle, this is the rocker bottom tip. Now there's a whole other section of evolution of crutch design that I'm not going to go into right now, but basically, right now I'm in the saddle, okay? Now I'm going to do a high bar thread, which is here to high mid position, okay? So now I'm in a saddle high mid split, okay? So I'm going to go to double high mids, and double high mids, when you're in crutches and you're in the saddle, which is your default position, it's very hard to go to the floor. I mean, if you go to the floor without Shannon technique, it kind of looks like this, like. Okay, so this is why you need Shannon technique, because you can change to high mid position in the saddle. Okay, back to, these are transitions here, where I'm doing the high bar thread to high mid is a transition move. So the high bar thread to double high mids, which gives you a lot more range. You can go up and come down. Okay, and then you go from high mids to low mid position. So I'm in a high mid, low mid split. Okay, low mid is your armpit in the handle of the crutch. Then you can do low bar thread. Okay, so you have different types of low bar toe thread, etc. So now I'm in double low mids. And then, of course, there's floor work. And lastly, but not leastly, style. So, now, you can have all the technique in the world, but if you ain't got style, you got nothing. So the thing about Shannon technique is also that it is a dance of the body, that the crutches are an extension of the body. Most times in theater you think, oh, it's a prop. But growing up on crutches, starting on 5 to like 11 and a half, they were just me, you know? No matter what I was doing. What did you say? You know? Come back here, you know? Whatever it was just, so there's this whole other, like, you know, disability culture around different perspectives on disability. For example, childhood onset versus adulthood onset. Like, when you're a kid and a doctor gives you a crutch, you're like, cool! Yeah, wow, this is fun! You know, you don't think of it as, oh, man, my life's over, man. You know what I'm saying? So this whole, the disability continuum of my life, starting with not being on them, then 5 getting on them, then 12 getting off, and then 24, 25, starting to have reemergence of condition. And then now I'm 36, so I've been back on them for 10 years, looking at the previous history in my early childhood, and really taking a look at what happens in public space. All of my work in theater has been a translation from the street to the stage. So I want to take a look right now. I'm going to show and give examples on video of some of the sociological phenomena that I just briefly introduced here. So let's take a look at these clips. And I brought some footage that I was invited to Russia to be the sort of cultural entertainment for this conference on accessibility in Novgorod, which is the ancient capital of Russia. And, you know, Russian culture, there's a whole geographic thing having to do with people's own, you know, cultural beliefs about disability and crutches and that kind of thing. So I went there and I wanted to try, you know, some public work where, let's say, like like skateboarding, okay? So I have basically like a skater-based reference to urban architecture and urban environments. So when you think of a skateboarder trying a trick on a rail, well, you don't go, oh no, they're falling. You go, that, you know, he's just trying his trick and he didn't make it. But because I'm living within a skater ethos through a representation of disability, it creates this ripple of sort of impact on public space. So you see here, I try the move, it fails. The guy's like, oh no, what happened? Like, whoa. But then at some point, you can see this change from seeing me as like the poor guy who is about to die to like, oh, this guy is having too much fun. See what I'm saying? So this performance series started out called Regarding the Fall. Now, doing acrobatics, I mean, I want to show an example of something successful because it's not faking falling. It's not, Jackass where, it's all for the purpose of tricking people. I mean, this is a very technical dance form. And I'm just taking this clip from a recent RJD2 video, which if you want to look it up on YouTube, you can actually see the whole thing in real time. But let's say, for example, some of the more acrobatic moves, say floats downstairs, where it's basically a no-footed spin downstairs into this up rock-based form. And I'm gonna perform tonight, so come through and really check out the dancing live. But that's the kind of technical move that, well, you see how if it fails, it looks ugly. You know what I'm saying? So not only does it look ugly because you just failed, but also because crutches are involved, and you don't have a sense of continuum. Like, you didn't see me do the last take. Like, this is take 16. I did 16 versions of going around the block, and this is the one. So the whole failure aspect here was, not placing the crutch in the right position. And then after the technical attempt at the move fails, then it becomes like sort of Chaplin-esque, where, then you just take that fall and turn it into a crumpling sort of, rising back up kind of thing. So that's the ambiguity of disability in public space, and that's a really important part of the work. Now, in my daily life, let's say I'm at the elevator, at an elevator, trying to get on an elevator, right? I'm about to press the button, like I'm like this, and then somebody goes, dun dun dun, dun dun dun, dink. Are you okay? So it's this notion of a projected narrative of this guy is just in trouble, and I need to save him because I'm here to help. And this introduced, through the years, I started to realize that, good intentions and well-meaning, good Samaritanism can still be an obstacle. And so once I started identifying good Samaritanism as an obstacle, and I started to realize that in my real life it was getting in my way sometimes, I said, I'm going to do these performances where I recreate a parallel to my real life. In other words, I am performing utilitarian task in public space. Now, this happens to be a babushka in front of a Russian marketplace. I've sort of assimilated the look of Russian youth, just, very, very like gray, sort of blue, jacket, just the straight up, like, sort of b-boy look. And I basically decided, okay, I'm going to pick up a bottle. Okay? Very simple for me. But this is a representation of projected narrative. Projected narrative is the idea that other people's stories about your mundane utilitarian task are so dramatic and incredible that it actually changes their day more than your actual act. So here's the reach for the bottle. Okay, now if you think about this like a traditional narrative arc, this is probably the height of the drama right here. Will he get the bottle? Boom, 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 boom. Ah, ah. So if you watch the purse area, okay, you're going to see this psychosomatic, get it. She's right there she's so in it. She's so with me that get it. Now, meanwhile, I'm demonstrating a high, mid, low, mid split to perform a utilitarian task and maintain a neutral palette. Now, neutral palette is another tool in public space that I try to maintain. In other words, if I were just to go out there and reach for that bottle, like, I can't get it, Okay, like I was saying before, it's not Jackass, okay? It is retaining neutral palette is a very important tool for me to begin to understand her projected narrative, her view of this, and her own story. Now, in my real life, if I weren't performing and I were bending over picking up a bottle and somebody was like this the whole time, well, after that one person, well, that person doesn't upset me, but over time, cumulatively, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, every simple utilitarian task in public is turned into this spectacle where someone is freezing and staring at you. Okay, think about it. Imagine going through that every day. So these are tools. In other words, it's not just a question of what's happening, but what to do about it. And performance art became a tool for me. So here I am basically representing disability-based utilitarianism, which is another category of movement that is different from like my trick movement or whatever, where I'm actually performing ways of doing things when you're on crutches that is disability-based utilitarianism. So you hold something in your mouth so that you can use your hands on the crutches and you can carry things, and it's a very common way for a crutch-using person who's used them for many years to carry things. Most people who use crutches because they broke their leg are like, I can't carry that. You know, they don't know. They haven't been in a situation where they have to carry it with their mouths. So I'm demonstrating disability-based utilitarianism, and then comes this moment, and I call it, this is another phenomenon, fate of distraction. Okay? Now I ride a skateboard in public, and fate of distraction happens in traffic a lot, where someone will be staring so hard at what I'm doing that they run into the person in front of them. So I've actually been skating and been like, hey, look where you're going, man, because people like walk into walls and whatnot. So in this particular instance, she actually is like at the top of the stairs and is like, whoa. Okay? So you know, this whole notion, the aspect of looking so hard, and you can see my reaction, okay? And which is, oh no. The whole reason that I was picking up a bottle is because people were like, no wonder people are freaking out. You're like spinning down the stairs. Okay, I said, fine, I'm not gonna spin down the stairs. I'm just gonna pick up a bottle. Is that okay? No, because you're gonna send a babushka down the stairwell and she's gonna die. So anyway, there's also the notion, you know, Freud had this thing about countertransference, and, you know, pretty much he denied, you know, he was like, no, there's no such thing as countertransference where you're projecting your own relationship, you know, with your parent or whatever to your patient. So this notion of I was gonna help her, you know, she started to go down. I was like, I'm ready to dive. Like, I'm ready to abandon everything to dive and try to help her, because, you know, if she went down, it would be really a disaster. So then she's going down the stairs here, and I'm watching her, making sure everything's cool. And she gives me this look. She's like, it's basically, the look is like, you know, I almost died looking at you, you know, like this very, you know, Russian babushka type of thing. So, you know, like I was saying before, I also use a skateboard for mobility purposes, mostly. And in this video, you know, I'm basically dancing around the block, and then I have this run-in with the skater. I steal his board, and I jump on it, and I start skating. Now, in this particular piece, I'm basically, you know, performing it as a sport, as an extreme sport. But and again, skaters' relationship to architecture is very different from your average pedestrian. So I'm always looking at you know, different moves and different types of ways. So that particular step right there is called a stepping roll, and it's very particular to skateboarding on crutches, because you have a weightless foot in the skateboard itself. You're able to basically have stepping moves on the board like this. So hopefully tonight, if there's enough space, I'm going to demonstrate stepping roll. I'm going to demonstrate, you know, rolling no footers, and a lot of the skateboard tricks, as well as the dancing. So these are technical moves based on skateboarding, but again, it gets back to the notion of spectacle in public space. Disability-based utilitarianism, holding the bottle in the mouth. Disability-based utilitarianism, how to put down a bottle without bending over while standing on crutches. Well, you pass it to your knee, and then you let it slide down your calf, and then boom, there you go. So, you know, the next time you're on crutches and you're not in a cast and you have a bilateral hip deformity, well, that's how you can put down a bottle without bending over. So, and these are coming from my childhood. I mean, as a kid, you play. You know, you're not really stressing the whole, oh my God, it's over for me thing. So here is a representation, this is the last one I have time for, peripheral fluctuation. Now, if you go to my website, whatiswhat.com, you're going to see the whole range of phenomena, and that's not all of them. That's a good example of a lot of them. So this is peripheral fluctuation, which is the notion that in your periphery, things transform, but straight ahead, they remain static. So when I'm walking down the street and I see somebody reading a paper, they're reading the paper, but when I pass them, they go like that. So peripheral fluctuation is that moment in time when they make the transition. So if you look here, he's looking, should I look at him? And then boom, he looks away. Okay? So he's not looking, because peripheral fluctuation is that movement in the corner of my eye that continuously happens throughout the day for people who don't want to directly. Then there's basically inverse peripheral fluctuation, which is the notion of people who are like, oh, man, you know, like that. So that's inverse peripheral, and there's a lot of different variations on these phenomena that I could, if I had time to go into it. But anyway, come and check out the performance tonight. It's been an honor to be on this panel, and thank you all very much. Peace.